Well, my name is Nakakura. I'm a surgical oncologist. Welcome to the pilot of the UCSF Surgery Masterclass. Let me put up some introductory slides just really quick. You all have some very good resources already available on YouTube from the Skills Center that Dr. Kim and Dr. Chernin put together. So this is just meant to complement that stuff that's already out there. So please look at the basics, the basics how to tie knots and basics how to suturing on the website. This is more going to be an interactive type of class. It's called the Master Class. How many of you play instruments out there? I'm sure many of you do. Well, the Master Class in music goes like this. You have some young performers that are brave enough to perform in front of an audience and a teacher. The audience is typically comprised of their peers. And then one by one, the teacher critiques the students, and it's a pretty powerful way to learn when you see your colleagues performing in front of you, and you see the type of things that they do very well, but also things that they can improve on. And the whole point is for both the quote unquote performers and the audience or observers to benefit from this sort of exercise. So again, it's supposed to be very interactive, and the goal is for those of you that are brave and want to show how you can tie knots and suture, it gives you an opportunity, I think, to really improve on your skill set. Today's class, and it's going to be, we're starting at the basics, which is knot tying. Although it sounds very basic, it's very, knot tying is very difficult to do well. And we're going to talk about two-handed knots and one-handed knots. And I think knot tying and suturing are probably the two most important technical things we do as surgeons. So you really have to have these skill sets nailed to become competent and great surgeons. But aside from all the knot tying and suturing and skills that we'll be talking about, I think it's important that you also do a lot of reading. This is an unprecedented amount of time that you'll have to read, so take advantage of it. I think that the residents that are become exceptional residents are the ones that really, really do a lot of reading. So please take advantage of this time to read as much as you can. Okay, let me get rid of the slides. All right, with that in mind, regarding the two-handed knots, you really have to master the two-handed knot before you can start using the one-handed knot in the OR. I think nothing's more frustrating is doing a case with a resident and they start doing one-handed knots and doing it very sloppily, tearing tissues and all this, when in fact they should be, starting with the two-handed knot and making sure they perfected that before they even move on to the one-handed knot. Now the two-handed knot is called two-handed knot because you have two hands, right? So you basically can choose which hand you're going to use to throw the knot. When I was starting out, I was told to learn how to tie a two-handed knot by throwing with my left hand, throwing with my right hand. But in reality, if any situation where you have your two hands available, you're going to you can either choose your left hand, your right hand to throw the knot. I suggest that you pick a hand that you feel most comfortable throwing a knot with and stick with it and master it that way. For me, I like to throw the knot with my left hand, and that's the way I do it every time because, as I mentioned, you have two hands. You can pick and choose which hand you're going to use. If there's a needle involved, obviously the hand that you throw the knot is going to be the one holding the needle because you don't want to pass the needle through the hole. But before we get any further into that, Daniel, since I saw you had a pretty good setup there, why don't you activate your video and show us a two-handed knot.
Is this the best direction, or can you really see?
Yeah, no, I think that's. So I want to say, Daniel, you got a lot of the basics down quite well. First things I want to say is you have just the way you hold the suture is very good. Can you show people how you're holding the suture with your left hand? Yeah, that's right. See how these sutures wrapped around his, I guess his fourth and fifth fingers like that. That allows a very sturdy grip, and you really want to have a sturdy grip on that hand that you throw. Especially important when you're tying fascia. I use chain and knot when I tie fascia, and sometimes fascia, especially in obese people, is very hard to get together. So having a good firm grip on the throw hand is important. When you push down, Daniel, push down with your left hand like you were. And how are you grabbing show us how you're grabbing show us the back of your palm. Yeah, so he's also got it wrapped around his fingers there. So if you have something like fascia and you really need to get the knot down without it slipping, having a good grip like that is very, very important. Okay, so I think how you're grabbing the suture and pushing down the suture and having it locked on both fingers, on both hands like that is critical. Okay, good. And the other thing I want to say that Daniel's doing very, pretty, I would say perfect, is when you throw your knot, Daniel, yeah, it's subtle, but you see how Daniel's maintaining enough tension on both sutures such that they're not flopping in the wind. Make it flop in the wind, Daniel. See how it's flopping in the wind here? This is how a lot of people tie suture when you're learning how to do it. It's important to be able to tie it without that flopping in the wind, because by having that gentle, that slack out of that, you're able to have feedback on what you're tying. For example, by doing that, you will know when your knot is down, and also you'll know that it's not going to be an air knot. This is really important when you can't see where the knot is. It comes into play when you're tying in a hole, or you're tying where the knot's underneath blood or irrigation, and you can't really see the knot. But if you have that feedback, that haptic feedback, so haptic feedback is that tactile sense of force and touch. By having that, not having the air loop, put the air loop back in. With the air loop, you don't know where the knot is, right? Because there's no connection between your hands and the knot, right? You have no idea when the knot's going to hit. You see that? It's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
And Daniel and I didn't plan this out before we did this, so he's taken all my tips out of the that I had, but what we're doing is very good. And I think it's an advanced technique of not having that loop, so you have that connection between your hands and where the knot is when it's going down. Okay. The other reason why it's important to be able to throw the knot without forming that loop is oftentimes, especially when you're tied under tension, if you allow some slack when you throw that knot, that's when you're going to get your air knot. Okay, and while it's true you can tie through 2 throws in one direction and slip it down, there are times when you can't slip it down. And the times you can't slip it down are when you're tying a very delicate structure. Like let's say you're tying like a pancreas, or let's say the bile duct. If you have to slip it down, that's when you rip the sutures through the tissue. Okay, so that's what is really critical, and you can't have air knots. And by doing what Daniel's doing, do it again, Daniel. Throwing the throw, but see, there's a little bit of even Daniel, do it again. Try not to make any laxity when you do your throw. Okay, that's better. Do it the other way. Do the other throw. Okay, that's good. Yeah, and if you were to I know there's an exercise you can do where you tie it under, with like 2 rings separated by rubber bands or something. You're trying to bring it together without slipping. Yeah, you can do that. But there's a way to, by doing what Daniel's doing with throwing the throw without the slack developing, you'll prevent an air knot from popping up when you do your throw. Most people don't know this is irrelevant, because if you tie, fascia, if you tie, do an intestinal anastomosis, you can pretty much do whatever you want because it's not going to rip. But when you start tying very delicate structures, that's when it's going to rip. And you can't, be learning how to do this on the delicate structures, because all the tissue is going to tear. So I think one important lesson is, if you do it the same way every time, when it really matters, it'll be like second nature. And the second nature things are, exactly when it's bleeding, you can't see, and you want to make sure that knot is down, and you can't see it go down. But if you can feel it going down, you achieved your goal. Let me. Okay, Dan, you can deactivate yourself. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's my setup. So sort of what Dan was doing, the first thing I do is, see how I grab the sutures like this? This is important again with fascia, and you want to be able to get the knot down. Just a very basic thing of getting the knot down. Obviously, for that to be down, the vectors from either hand have to be at 180 degrees to each other. So when you're doing fascia, you can just bring your hands down like this. But if you're in a hole, where you're tied in a hole, you push it down with your finger. Your finger is not going on the knot; it's going next to the knot. So you get that 180 degree. I don't know if I'm showing it right. You're basically getting that 180 degree vectors, so the knot doesn't move, right? What is it? Newton's first law of motion, that an object is stationary as long as the net forces are zero. So if the forces are balanced in both hands, the knot won't move. But if you start pulling on one hand more than the other, it's going to move, and you don't want to move it at all. So pushing down with your finger and making it so it's 180 degrees, no matter where you are, achieves that. So sort of what Daniel was doing, if I'm doing my first throw, you see how this is taut? I mean, I'm not pulling on this thing so it's putting tension on tissues, but it's just enough. It's just enough strings, right? And look, I can maintain that when I do my throw. See? It's not doing this. It's not flying in the wind. And when I do my other throw, I can do the same thing. See? You can maintain that when you do your throw. And when you do the handoff here. And this allows you to feel the interaction between your hands, the knot, and the tissues, and know when the knot is down by maintaining this tension. And it's not tension that you pull, moving anything, or it's just enough that you can feel where the knot is. But this is a thing that takes practice, and Daniel made it look easy, where you're doing your throw and you're maintaining the tension at all times here. And I want you guys to practice that when you guys are done with this. Okay. Anybody have any questions about that?
It's Anna and Riley and Ashwin. What are your thoughts on squaring knots? When do you think you have to square versus not square?
Yeah, so that's another thing. And you may or may, the short answer is, for silk, you're always, or for most sutures, doing the first two throws in the same direction allows you to slip it. So I think most people do the first two throws. People understand that if you're starting your suture, your first throws are going to be in the same direction. I do this and do this again. And then the third one is going to square it by doing the other direction, the throws in the other direction, right? And I don't know if it's hard for you guys to see, but I'm actually, sort of alternating like this to make it go down square, but very subtly. If you didn't have a hole, you would be doing this and this to get it down square. But for me, this hand is slightly going to the back and the finger's going to the front. And then I do my other throw. See, this hand is going up and this finger is going to the back. So I'm doing the square by doing like this very subtly, but I'm not doing this. I'm just very slight movements to get it square. You see that? So the certain answer is that if you're doing 3 knots for silk, your first 2 throws should be the same direction to allow you to slip it in case you get a little air knot. But your third throw is going to be, the opposite direction to square it. And if you practice with larger caliber sutures, you can actually see how it goes down square, and then you'll just be able to do it automatically. Like, so like now, I every time I do it square, because I can see like this one, this hand's back this way, this hand's forward. And so it's a very subtle back and forward like this to get it square each time. So if you do it this way every time, it's just natural, okay? Any other questions? How about someone else beside Daniel that has sutures available? Does anybody have suture available that wants to give an example?
I'm having some trouble keeping the tension right, I think. It might be the fact that I'm tying in my water bottle, but
Okay. Well,
uh,
yeah, you make it easy. You can
show
use
you.
something that's a little more sturdy. But can you show us?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Here. Also don't have like the best setup ever, but here we go. And so then when I pull up, I mean, it's obviously coming loose a bit. I can snug it down, but it wasn't quite staying before.
Yeah, the other thing I could say is that when you're pushing down, remember the finger wants to be close, should be closer to the knot.
Mm-hmm.
When you push it down, so
Okay.
it's going to be right next to the knot, not on the knot, but right next to the knot. So closer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right, yeah. So something like that. So that, see how you get the 180 degrees opposite
Mm-hmm.
of each string?
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. Let's see, tie it a little slower, more slowly so we can see.
Okay.
So I can see, can you see right there when you threw that, you did that throw, there's slack on both of them,
Mm-hmm.
both sides of the string. So so like right now it doesn't really matter, right? Because nothing's happening. But if you had like say fascia in an obese person and you did that, that's when the two fascial edges would fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
So this is it's easier. I mean, it's certainly is easier when you don't have an intention. But this is when you should practice to. So what I would do is slow down and grab your sutures a little further away, and do it again.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, you're off the screen now. So somewhere in between. So show us on the screen. You do the throws. So you got to get. Sorry, you got to get a little closer.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. There's still a little laxative developing into your throat. Like see right there. As soon as you do that, do your throw, all the sutures got loose.
Okay? Right. Okay.
That's one point. And the other thing is with your left hand, you're kind of let's see here. I think that's okay. So so it's just practice. Now, so what I would do is I would do it. Let me unpin you. Just slow it down and just see, just do it very slow like this. And when you're doing this whole passing here, see how there's nothing happening here? So just do it very slow. That's one throw. I think it's when you do this other throw with your thumb this way. This is when it got loose. But see how I can do it?
Okay.
There's nothing happening when I do this.
Right. Okay.
So it's a very subtle thing. But it does take a while to practice this. So it's even harder when you do a one-handed knot. You can do the same thing with a one-handed knot, but it's much harder. So that's why two-handed knot practice is critical. Right. Anybody? How about another person? Anybody else got? Who's that?
Oh, this is Audrey. I can volunteer if you want.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Slow it down. Could you bring their time board closer to the camera?
Yes.
Yeah, and then slow it down just a tad bit.
Okay.
You see when you did that throw, how the sutures got a little loose? It kind of bounced. So slow it down when you slow it down.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a very, very subtle, area, and you'll see this again when you have it on tension, where you're letting up when you do your throw.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good, but it's a subtle thing. But you'll see it when it's just slow it down, and as you do your throw, try to make sure there's no letting up on the tension.
Okay.
Okay, let me just show you guys one thing real quick again. Sorry. I mean, one thing is when you do your throw, I don't know if you can see it very well. I don't put much my thumb in there. I just barely put it in. Sometimes you see people going doing this sort of like they're going like this, like this, like this, like this. I think it's just wasted motion. You don't need to put your whole finger through like this. You just need to put just just enough to hand it over. So just minimal through the hole. Same this way, look, minimal through the hole. And if you're doing something fast, you think about it, you're just going like this versus you're going like this. You don't want to be like so bulky and like, you just want to be, so just try that. You just want to be able to throw your throw. That's all you need to do. You don't need to, I know they show you like in the videos, you're going through like this, like this, like this, but really just minimal motion. Okay, next person.
I can go if you want.
Okay. Who's that?
That's Zach. It's Zach.
Okay,
Yes.
let me see if I can pin you. Oh, there you are. Okay. Okay, slow down, Zach. And can you get closer to the camera? Yeah. Okay. You can see, slow down. You see when you do your throw, when you're pushing your finger through the hole, one of the sutures is like bouncing, meaning that's when you're letting up on the slack. So
Okay.
I would slow down, slow down, slow down. Yeah, just slow down. You got it. Slow down. Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. See, it's very subtle, but and I think this is the reason why everyone thinks they're tying fine until you run in situations where it really matters. Then you realize that there's this very subtle letting up of the tension ever so slightly, and that's when the knot becomes an air knot. It pops up. It's at that moment when you're doing your throw and you let up even for a millisecond. That's when the knot just jumps up like that. So it's just a very subtle thing that needs to practice. Okay. But this concept of having this kind of feedback with your fingers to the tissues is so important because it allow you, obviously it's more important when you're doing like 6-0 sutures or 4-0 sutures than fascial sutures, but it's still the same. You got to be able to feel when the knot is down. And I think a 6-0 suture on let's say a bile duct on the hepatojejunostomy in a hole in an obese person is a good example because you sometimes can't even see the knot go down, but you got to be able to feel it go down, and you got to be able to stop when the knot is down and not break it. So this is when it's critical. The practicing it's on things when it doesn't matter, so it's just automatic, and your body's always sensing when the knot's down, even when you don't look at it. It's very, very important. How about someone else? But good job.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Any other volunteers? Okay. One thing I want to, I think a lot of you guys have done this great job, but Daniel, why don't you come back on video? Okay. I think you did a very good job. If you grab your sutures from far away and you're pushing down the knot with your finger, I know they have a good video of this on the YouTube, but Dr. Kim, I just want to see how you're pushing the knot down when the suture say you're tying in a hole, the suture's kind of long. How are you doing that?
I think the angles should be probably higher up in the sky, like standing or something, right, to emulate that.
Okay. Yeah. What are you doing? Is your technique to regrab the suture? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I tend to regather for the hand that's pushing it down. The other way, or that I'll do it sometimes, is to rotate away, but I'm still grabbing the suture back here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're doing the right thing, but do you guys, let me, this isn't Dr. Kim's video, so it's out there on the YouTube somewhere, but if you say you have the really long suture, let's say you're way out, you know, tying through the book wall to retractor and you're this far out, and you throw your knot here, and you want to push it down, you know, your finger's only this long, right? You can only push it down this far, or you have to re-grab like this and go like this, but there's a way you can just push it down and just push it down once, like this. And it's basically looping your thumb like this. And what you're doing is you're pushing your thumb out like this. By pushing your thumb out like this, you can essentially push down about this far, right? Because it's like this distance. And you don't have to re-grab. So, but the important thing is you're actually not pushing, I think Dr. Kim says you push away, but you actually push at a right angle. So let me do it again. Like this. And then if you push it, you know, all the way like this, you essentially can push it down this far with your finger without re-grabbing. Some people call that the magic finger, but it's basically, you know, you're using your thumb to push out the suture at a right angle. Right angle. So you don't have to re-grab. You see how I effectively extended my finger this far. It's like 3 times my finger, like by going like this with my thumb.
Dr. Nakakura, do you push with the same direction with your thumb regardless of the throw, or a different direction?
It's the same direction. I think it's the same direction. Well, I take that back. I mean, this hand is the hand that makes it square. Like right now, to make a square, I'm going up. And this way, this hand's going down.
Okay.
So this is the hand, you know, I am doing this.
Yeah.
Regardless. But you're always going to, you know, make this angle, this right angle. So this is where we, you know, grab the suture like Daniel showed you. And you see how it's like, it creates a right angle. But that gets you your length. See? So you can effectively get this length by doing that. And this is the thing too, is if you just do this, I just do this automatically all the time, even when I don't need it. So then when you do need it, you know, you don't even think about it. I always do it all the time, use my thumb like that. And I'm trying to make this as long. So say I'm way out here, my thumb could still likely get most of this down or all of it down, see? That's maximally using it. So essentially you can use I can push it down the whole string without re-grabbing just by doing that technique. This just take practice. So just keep practicing it and it'll become natural. I think a lot of these things you just want to do so you don't even think about it. If you only did that thumb thing when you really needed it, then when you really need it, you won't be able to do it. So that's why I think just making it natural is important. Anybody want to show us how they use the magic thumb? Any takers?
I can do that.
Is it Zach?
Alex.
Oh, Alex. Okay, good. Good.
Is that a good angle?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, good. I mean, you have a lot of knots in there, so it's hard to push down a lot,
Right.
but you got the idea.
Right.
Any questions on that stuff so far? Okay, how about a one-handed knot? Anybody want to do a one-handed knot real quick? How
I
about,
have my video on right now.
Alex, why don't you do that since you're here?
Sure.
Okay, that's very good. All right. So a couple things that just come to mind. Okay, Alex, good job. You should still do the same things you're trying to do with the two-handed knot, with the one-handed knot. That is, you don't want the knot to move, so you got to make sure you have equal vector forces on both strings when it's going down. The other thing is when you throw your knot, you can also do the same thing that we mentioned on the two-handed knot, where you maintain the tension in both arms of the suture, even when you throw your knot with one hand. Okay. But let me take one step back. When I was at your stage, they told me you had to learn how to tie a one-handed knot with each hand, and I think what I've learned is that's not true. You pick what hand you want to use and use it. So for me, I like to tie my one-handed knots with my right hand. And, pick which hand is natural to you and just master it in one hand. I can't think of any time where I had to tie a one-handed knot with my left hand and I couldn't do it with my right hand. So you really just have to learn how to master it with one hand and get it down perfectly. Regarding the one-handed knot again. So, if you watch how we're throwing the throw, you want to minimize how much finger you go in again. But you see how this is maintain tension as I do my throw? It's not this, this kind of floppy thing like this. And the same thing when you do this throw, it's hard to do this one, but you see I can maintain it as I do the throw with a one-handed knot. The reality is when you do a one-handed knot, you're probably going to do it in areas where it's low tension anyways, like a vascular anastomosis or a very fine suture, and it's not going to be on tension. But it's the same idea that if you maintain it, you have a good feeling of where the knot is in relationship to the tissues, and when the knot is down. But also it avoids an air knot when you really can't afford to get an air knot on. Let's say you're doing 6-0. If you have an air knot on 6-0 and you're pushing it down, trying to get the knot down, the suture is going to break. So this is just another way to do it and not get an air knot, is if you maintain the tension as you do the throw. Same like with the two-handed knot, you really just have to put as much finger in there to get your throw. You don't have to put your whole finger in there. Like, you don't have to do this, with this. You really just need to just put the tip of your finger. See that? It's a very, very small piece of part of my finger in there to get it around. This is also about conserving motion. You don't want to be doing these bulky, throws like this and like this. You just want to just go like, everything very, very, very small. Like, Alex, you want to try that again? Okay, you see how just as you did the throw, all the sutures got very loose?
Okay.
Okay, this is a minor thing. I mean, a lot of people, it's hard to do this, but. The other thing is, it's fine that you're doing this for the camera, but are you tying straight up and down just because that's how you do it, or just because you're trying to get in the camera?
Yeah, just trying to get the right angle.
Okay, yeah, but why don't you do it how you would naturally do it? How would you naturally do it?
Just kind of.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay. See how you did that throw? How the suture just flopped all over the place?
Yes.
Do that again.
Okay.
See right there, it's just kind of flopping.
Mhm.
You know, this is a I know it'll take practice, but just practice. And you're putting more finger through the hole than you need to put through the hole.
Okay.
So it's just a way of making your throws more efficient, and also making it so it's not flopping around like that. So you're less likely to get an air knot if, you know, in situations.
Okay.
Hey, anybody have any questions, or does anybody want to show me a one-handed knot? How about Audrey? You want to show me a one-handed knot?
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. Try to put less finger through the hole
Okay.
for both rows.
Mhm.
That's better. Yeah, good. And then when you push the knot down, you want your finger closer to the knot. See, that's pretty far away.
Yeah, it is. Mhm.
You want it right next to the knot. That's better. Closer to the knot. Okay, it's good. How about Zach? I see you on the screen. Want to show us yours real quick?
Sure. One sec.
Try to put less finger through the hole.
Okay.
That's good. That's pretty good. I think when you did the other one. Yeah, that's
Oh,
better.
that's that side, yeah.
That's better. Yeah. Like, it's hard to see your suture, so I can't comment on the tension part, but that's okay.
Okay.
But I think to be more efficient, just only put the finger through the hole when you do your throw that is necessary to get the throw across, but no more.
Okay. One thing I have a question about, actually, just on, I noticed some people kind of gather it that way, and then I think that I do more like that. I don't know if it really makes a difference. It's just whatever you're more comfortable with. Trying to see how you do it.
I'm not sure what I'm doing.
I think you come, yeah. Okay, that's helpful to see. Okay.
Yeah, and when you push your finger down, you want it closer to the knot too. Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
That's better. Do it again. Okay, good. All right. Does anybody have any questions about any questions you want to ask about knots?
Yeah, one of the questions I feel like comes up a lot for, like at least for us at this level, is as we're starting to tie on delicate structures, it's how do you strike that balance between maintaining tension on the suture and not, pulling up or, getting accused of pulling the tissue too much.
Yeah. So it gets back to my other point is that you just got to practice a lot. So practicing on things that maybe, a coffee cup that it's full of coffee, so it doesn't, it's weighted down, then lighten the load of the liquid inside. But you just want to, I'm not pulling up like really, so this thing moves. I'm just putting enough tension that there's no slack in the suture. So this is the whole point about the feedback, the haptic response, is that you got to feel that it's the knot's going down. There's no laxity in the system, but you don't want to put undue tension so you rip things. So it's a very subtle thing of doing these things, and this is why you just got to practice. I can't emphasize enough that this is the one thing, knot tying is something that you can do outside of the OR. So you can really master this and get really good at all the things you just mentioned about, knot pulling up, making sure the knots are going down. There's maintaining tautness in the sutures when you do your throws without yanking on the tissues. This is all something you can master through different permutations, at home that you don't have to practice in the OR. And residents and students that get really good at knot tying are the ones that practice hours and hours in all forms of fashion at home before they get in the OR. That's one of the most frustrating things, I think, is if you get an OR and then like say someone shows up and they're having trouble, figuring out what hand to throw a two-handed knot, and looking at it, swap it around, and you're going, gee, this is something you can work out at home. You shouldn't be like looking at the suture and trying to figure out, oh, I should grab it this way, I should grab it this way. That you can be done. All this can be worked out at home before you even set foot in an OR. So I can't emphasize enough, practice. The residents are really, really good, practice this, night and day. They're doing it in their sleep. You do it with your eyes closed, make sure the knot's going down with your eyes closed. You're getting that sense of where the knot is, based, by feel. You should feel when the knot is down. You don't have to look at it to know that it's down. Okay. So these are things that you can, you need to practice. Same things coming to suturing too. We'll get into that later at another lesson. But a lot of the things with suture loading, suture technique, needle point control, all this stuff you can work out before you even set foot in the OR. And so it's one less thing you have to worry about. Thinking about the case is a whole nother issue, but just basic ways you handle the needle is important. I can tell you that, as an intern or when you're lower on the totem pole, they'll ask you to tie these knots. If you tie the knots perfectly, then they're gonna say, hey, why don't you do some sewing? So, the rich do get richer. And getting all this stuff perfected before you get an OR, you'll get to do more of the case. And certainly, the better you are, the more case you'll get to do.
Hey, Dr. Nakakura.
Yeah.
Maybe you can comment on what seemed to help as you got to tie more knots deep was how you choose what length of suture you have in your tying hand, because I think that's a very important part of the tying hand to maintain just the right amount of tension and not too much, is you choose how much length you have in each hand.
Yeah, so Hubert's asking is like, how do you shorten one or another? The answer is, what was the answer? There's practical issues. If you're tying fascia and you have a needle on and you're running it, obviously you want to have a short tail because you don't want to use up all the suture tying your knot. So that's an example where obviously you're going to make them uneven and suture that you can sew with. In situations where that's not an issue, like say you're just doing lumber, like a 3/0 silk pops, and you're interrupting. If you're doing any interrupting suture, there's no need to shorten the length, okay? I actually think it's easier to maintain equal, force on either side of the suture if they're the same length. So I would say if I'm doing something with a pop off or interrupted, I'll just keep the lengths the same length because it just makes it easier for me to do things. I think, but this is a personal thing. Can you make it shorter? You could, but I think if it gets too short, then it gets hard to tie the knot. And you see some people struggle when that happens. So you just have to know your mind. If I'm doing a pop off, there's no limitations in the length of the suture, so I can just keep them the same length. The only time I can think of where it matters is if you're going to run it, okay? But usually for delicate tissues, you're not running it. I guess the exception is maybe if you're doing a vascular anastomosis. You might make the tail shorter for that reason. But this is why you sort of got to think about what you're doing, what the purpose of the suture is. Is it interrupted or is it continuous? Do I need the length of the suture or do I not? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's just I was just hoping that you would comment on it because I think it matters. But I mean, I think that it's just good to talk about that part of it.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people just you can see that in the past and also sometimes currently in watching others operate, when you have too much suture in your tying hand and you're spending all your time gathering, it can make all kinds of fumbles that you don't intend to make, you know. Or if you have too little suture and you're shooting yourself in the foot and you cause too much tension.
You know, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, if you have really long suture, I think your point is, yeah, if you have a really long suture, you don't want to be, I'm just going to exaggerate here. Let's say that I'm tying like this. You don't want to throw a long length of suture through as you do your throw, right? It just doesn't make ergonomic sense to be passing this big suture through the hole. So if you could shorten it up, so the suture is effectively like this, where very little is going through the hole. That makes sense. I think is that what you're making that?
Exactly, because then you make the hole effectively bigger for yourself, so that your thumbs aren't struggling to get through. Because that's a common pitfall. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So where you decide to, like, I'm not going to throw my stitch right up at at the knot, because then you're gonna have this big redundant suture going through, but rather you're going to throw it further back like this, so there's very little suture that's going to go through that you can grab. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like some other surgeons have taught to us, Dr. Padilla in the past, that you just measure the width of your forefingers, and that's the minimum you need. And you can widen it to anything beyond that, right? But as long as your forefingers can fit through, that's a nice, good enough space to start to tie.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good suggestion.
I have another question. I don't know if you're just gonna repeat what you answered Anna Maria's question with earlier, but I feel like there's a trade-off between maintaining this like guitar string like tension and throwing square knots. So and that might just be that I need more practice to maintain the tension and throw square knots, but could you repeat again when you really need square knots and when it's okay to slip it?
Yeah, so when is it okay to slip it? Well, when you're tying fascia, it doesn't matter, right? It's not going to tear. When you're doing most intestinal anastomosis, it's probably not going to matter. You ask Hubert, you're probably not going to want to slide a delicate vascular anastomosis, like a carotid. You're not going to want to slide a pancreatic anastomosis, because the main thing is the pancreas. The suture will rip through the pancreas as you're trying to slide the knot down, and that often happens. You see, like, the resin trying to put the knot down, like, and then all of a sudden it pulls through it just pulls through the tissue. The other example is biliary anastomosis, where you're using like 6/0 suture. Oftentimes, when you're doing that pushing down, is when the suture breaks. It'll go or the tissues, it'll pull through the tissues. So I'd say when anything delicate like a biliary anastomosis, pancreatic anastomosis, vascular anastomosis, when you're using probably like 6/0 suture, 6/0, 7/0, or 8/0, 6/0 I'd say is probably the smallest you'll get for most things. That's when it really matters. I think if you do it the same way every time, like I'm saying here, like, I don't need to do this now because nothing's going to happen to this, this bottle or this dispenser. But if I do it the same way every time, when you're doing something very delicate and with 6/0 suture, or you can still do the same things without even thinking about it. I think the important thing about doing this, maintaining I'm not talking about unnecessary tension. I'm just saying you just want to take a suture is very light. Whether I do this or I keep it like this, it's such a minimal force to keep it so it's taut, right? It's a very subtle thing, but this allows me to know where the knot is and to feel it when it's going down. So I can feel it here. I can't feel it. If I'm doing this, I have no idea where it is. I don't know where it is. Here, I know exactly, I know exactly where things are because I'm maintaining tension. It's down. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
I think, but the reality is, if you perfect it, you will be able to do it. Do all the throws without undue tension, keeping the knot down. But it's just practice. It can be done. You just don't even think. You just do it. You don't think about it. But I think one is just slow it down and just. I think one way to do it is practice on. Daniel, are you still on there, Daniel?
Still here.
Do you have those rings on your thing?
Yeah.
Are you able to set it up quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just watch this, because I think this is a good way to see. And get the biggest, if you have like O silk or something, very large caliber suture, so you can see it.
Oh, let me see. I might only have 2 silks.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Why don't you try to do a one-handed knot and tie these together?
Okay.
That's pretty good. So there's very minimal air knot. So that's good. But if he were to have let up, that's when he would have gotten a big air knot. So good job, Daniel.
Hey, Dr. Nakakura.
Yep.
On the subject of tying under tension, do you have any advice for a salvage maneuver in the event that your 2 intended slip knots tumble and then they lock? How to salvage that before it's irreversible?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you keep your post straight up and down. That allows you to slide it down. But sometimes it's not salvageable. And if it's on a delicate structure, I just cut it off. I wouldn't mess with it. If it's fascia, or intestine, you probably can fiddle with it. Keep one post straight up and down and try to slide it down. But oftentimes, if it locks, it's hard to unlock it. And I wouldn't sit there and wrestle with it. I just cut it off and do it again.
Okay.
But I think if it's a very delicate structure, I wouldn't fiddle with it. I just cut it off because you don't want to tear the structures just to get the knot down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I just want to summarize that. Please practice your 2-handed knots and master that with equal tension, without any redundancy getting in the knot first. And you'll never get criticized if you do that as best as you can and don't get it quite perfect, versus doing a one-handed knot and not being perfect. So if you're gonna do one-handed knot, it's got to be perfect. But you can't have like air knots, unequal tension, etc. on a one-handed knot, because then someone will say, "What are you doing a one-handed knot if you can't do it perfectly?" So you have to be able to do the 2-handed knot perfectly. Before, and then let me take a step back. You got to do the 2-handed knot you got to master that thing, okay? And if you do that perfectly, you'll do great. But don't do a one-handed knot 60% good. It's got to be 100% good. If you're going to go to the one-handed knot, it has to be perfect. Otherwise, people will say, "Why are you tying a one-handed knot?" When I was in training, actually, even if you're a fellow, if the one-handed knot wasn't perfect, you would get, I wouldn't say humiliated, but you'd get really, really critiqued, constructive criticism in the OR in front of everyone if you wasn't 100%. So you got to be perfect on the one-handed knot, and it can be done. But I wouldn't, for example, if you're a second year or an intern, I wouldn't show up to a case and start doing a one-handed knot, 40% perfect, and expect to be, having a good time. You should go in there being conservative, doing a 2-handed knot, and then recognize you're going to be learning, but at least you're doing the more conservative knot. And as we showed, it's much more difficult to maintain the tension or avoid air knots when you're doing a one-handed knot than a 2-handed knot. So again, your default knot should be the 2-handed knot. Any other questions? Okay, if not, practice, and stay safe, everyone.